Hi, Ed Blumdahl here with another, I think this is a short video on to add to the, I think, 8 videos that I've already done, and so 8 videos that I've already done, and this follows suit with how I look differently at physics, astrophysics, astronomy, and cosmology to come sort of to a different solution. And this isn't any different. The title of this is "The Time is Up for Space-Time," right? The time is up for space-time, and you'll see as we get into this what I'm talking about. You'll also note in other videos that I've done, there's usually a paucity of mathematics. And it's not that I can't do the math or haven't gone through the math, it's just that I look at physics and other related sciences more with a conceptual view to start than just writing down equations and putting in particles or fields and trying to connect them and come up with something at the end. So this one is, so I don't think I have even an equation or even the square root of anything in this. It's pretty simple. You know, one, you're not going to do this, what I'm doing, with math, because it won't work. It's not a mathematical problem. You know, it's a logic problem, per se, with using scientific principles. Something that I think has gone awry with physics is string theory. To me, in fact, I wrote this to Brian Greene, sent him an email. String theory is 90% mathematics and 10% bad idea. And also with the general theory, it's the same thing. It's 90% mathematics and 10% bad idea. I don't think it holds true at all, although many are trying to keep it that way. But we'll see. So that's, I'll start off in a second. I just wanted to read this as a disclaimer or a note that I have. As with all my other videos and papers, all ideas and conclusions presented in this video are mine and mine alone. I neither sought nor received any assistance from anyone at any time. So I'll just get ahead of the game here a little bit and do that. All right, so let's get into it. The time is up for space-time. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is the difference between a physical object and a concept. This video is philosophical in nature, although I'm using it as, very simply. It's not really that I'm trying to get into some physical problem about, why we're here, at least at this time and so forth. It's just, it has to do with science and the fact that, there are physical objects like others, and there are concepts. And in this state, I'm going to go sort of with the concepts. So I know it's philosophical, and there might be things that I say that others might object to, like with numbers, but we'll work those out. So the difference of a physical object and a concept. An object exists without definition. Example, the moon, right? I mean, the moon is there. You don't need to, you can define it, but it's there. You don't have to define it. It doesn't need a definition. It exists. It's a physical object. It's there. Everyone can see it. It moves. Light reflects off it. We know it's there, right? So you could also, but Gertrude Stein said, somewhat about like that, a rose is a rose is a rose is a rose. The moon is the moon is the moon is the moon. It's real. It's physical. We know that, right? Sort of like the Zen approach. Like when a master asks an initiate, and the Zen master is holding a small stick of bamboo or something, and you ask the initiate, like, what is this? And the initiate goes, well, that's a bamboo stick that you're holding. The Zen master whacks him on the head, right? He's trying to get him to see past the, it's, oh, it's a bamboo stick. No, that's what it is. It exists. Okay. A concept exists only by definition, right? A concept exists only by definition, like fealty, right? F-E-A-L-T-Y. It means basically loyalty, right? So you could say to someone, I'm going to hit you with a rock, and you'd understand what that is. But if they came in and said, I'm going to hit you with fealty, you'd have no idea what they're talking about, right? So we can look at heaven and hell, honesty, freedom. Those are all concepts, right? Without any kind of definition, you can't find them anywhere. You're not going to go look for them anywhere. Well, maybe Diogenes, but you're not going to, oh, there's an honesty. Yeah, it doesn't happen. It's a concept, right? You have to define it, otherwise it has no meaning. Its meaning is how you define it. So those are the two basic ideas that I'm going to talk about, right? A physical object is there, and then a concept, right, that has to be defined in order to exist. Okay, so I did that. Let's see what else we're doing here. Okay, so time and lines of latitude and longitude are concepts or artifices to bring order to man's world, cosmos, right? Time and lines of latitude and longitude, basically coordinates, right, are concepts, artifices, or tools to bring order to man's world and cosmos, right? So there's time, but we try and, what is time? I mean, time for us is trying to capture that sense of a evolving, or the evolution of the cosmos, right? As it proceeds forward. We see it as perceiving forward. And time is trying to capture that idea. So, and lines of latitude are the same idea, right? Coordinates around the Earth. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to pin down a certain place, right, with lines of latitude and longitude. But they don't exist in a sense. Well, they don't exist, right? They don't exist. If you you have a watch, right, and you have a time, but that's only relative that we use it, right? It's only relative time. There's nothing in space that says, what time it is. The universe doesn't know how old it is, right? And even if you asked it, it probably wouldn't say it in number of years. So, although the moon was part of creation, time for man and lines of latitude and longitude were just concept from the advent of man on Earth, right? You can't go out and grab time. You can't go out into the Indian Ocean and in a boat and go down and say, oh yes, there's a line of longitude right there. I'll cut off a hunk and bring it home. And the same with time, right? You can't go out and say, oh, I'll just cut time here and I'll just bring home a hunk. It's not. It's completely conceptual, right? So what I have, yes, new to my tools here is a green laser. How cool can you get, right? Means you've made it to the big time and you have a laser. Okay, so here it says time tries to capture the evolving process of the cosmos, right? That's what I just said, right? Time tries to capture that whatever going forward, or that feeling of going forward that we have, a way to sort of make sense of it. And time, and what do we have? Well, we have, for lines of latitude and longitude, right? They're just lines on a map. So We can say that a clock, or I should say a time is to a clock or watch what lines of latitude and longitude are a map, right? You have a map. The map's real, and it has lines on it, lines of longitude and latitude. But those aren't real. They're just representations. And the same thing with a clock. You can have a watch, but you know, if you're walking forward and your watch is working forward, then you know it has a certain amount of time that in a not an absolute sense, but a variable sense. But if you walk backward, does your clock go backwards? No, right? It just keeps going forward, which is what is involved with the universe. I mean, even if the universe, as some people suggested, you know, might expand to a point and then come back into the big crunch, even if the universe comes backward, yeah, that's still evolving, right? It's still evolution of the universe, even if the whole thing is contracting and coming backwards, right? So a clock is very real, but the time on your watch has is really meaningless unless it's tied in with everybody else, so we can make sense of our world, right? Make plans and so forth. So there are concepts that aren't real, right? And time and lines of latitude are one of them. Numbers is another one, right? If you can say, or someone says to you, go out and get 3 oranges. You can get 3 oranges. Or get, you know, 3 pine cones. You can get 3 pine cones. If someone says, go get 3, what? Right? I mean, they don't. It's an abstract idea. It's a concept, and it doesn't really exist. You can put, you know, 3 something, but you just can't. Well, I'm going to go grab a 6, right? That probably means 6-pack, but wasn't really looking for that. But how about 7? I don't know what comes in 7s. So, you know, I'm going to go grab a 7. Well, you can't grab a 7 because it doesn't exist, right? So that's why I was going to get into numbers a little bit. If you look at this, the clock, and it's like up, right? I've heard other people say it too, and I agree, right? There is no up in space. You have nothing to, if you just have like a bunch of little pinpoints and you're in the middle of space and you've got nothing else, you know, you're not going to know where up is. You're not going to know where north is, right? I mean, you have no idea, right? So it's kind of, the concepts are kind of meaningless because they don't really exist. And I put